Special meeting of the West Valley Water District Board of Directors to order. It is 6 p.m. in the evening. We will start off with our roll call of board members.
Thank you. I think we're having some technical difficulties with Director Garcia trying to audio in. I'm going to save her to the last,
Okay,
if you don't mind.
sure.
Director Moore,
Present.
Director Hawkins is not here. Vice President Jenkins,
Present.
President Young,
Present.
Director Garcia, can you?
Yes, present.
Thank you.
And Director Hawkins will be joining us soon.
And if I may, just for the record, we have one Director Garcia will be participating under AB 2449, which allows for a virtual meeting attendance due to being ill. That will be her second of two AB 2449 just causes for the calendar year. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance led by Director Moore.
Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and then we have Pastor Tracy Crawford to lead the opening invocation. Pastor Crawford, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself at this time.
Might not be on just yet.
I get for being punctual. No?
I don't see that he's on at this point.
Okay. Dan, would you lead us in the invocation?
You would please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together at this event. Help guide us within your light and your shining salvation. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Okay, we're going to do a quick public participation for the closed session item. Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Public may participate and give public comment in one of four ways: in person at West Valley Water District's Administrative Boardroom, via telephone by calling 888-475-4499, access code 840-293-7790, via Zoom with access code 840-293-7790, or via email to administration@wvwd.org.
Have we received any requests to speak on the closed session item?
No request in person or via email. I'm not sure about Zoom.
Okay, is there anybody on the Zoom who would like to speak on the closed session item before us? If so, please unmute yourself at this time. Okay, not seeing any. We'll go ahead and close public participation. We'll be adjourning into closed session. I know we have a few for a later item. This should hopefully be a fairly short one. So we appreciate your patience and we'll be back momentarily. Thank you. All right, we're coming back in from closed session. And I hear an echo.
Yes.
Try.
All right. Ooh, who's on?
Y80's on there?
I apologize. We have a little bit of an echo in the chamber here. Sure who it's coming from. All right, that sounds a little bit better. Yes, thank you. Thank you, guys. All right, so, Mr. General Counsel, report out from closed session.
Yes, the board met in closed session under Government Code 54957.6. There was some direction given to the labor negotiators, but no reportable action after that. There was no report, and that was the end of the closed session.
All right, thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have an agenda before us. If there's no proposed changes to the agenda, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first by Vice President, by Director Moore. If there's no discussion, call the roll, please.
Thank you. Director Moore? Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Hawkins is not here. Vice President Jenkins?
Yes.
President Young?
Yes.
Director Garcia, can you hear us? Can you unmute yourself? She's having AV issues, sorry.
Okay, yes, yes.
Thank you. And that passes 4-0-1 with one absent.
All right, that takes us to public participation.
Thank you. Public may participate in one of four ways. In person at West Valley Water District Administrative Office, via Zoom. Sorry, by calling 888-475-4499, access code 840-293-7790, via Zoom with access code 840-293-7790, or via email to administration@wvwd.org. Thank you.
All right, have we received any requests for public participation?
None in person or via email, and I'm not sure about Zoom.
All right, is there anybody on Zoom who would like to address the body this evening? If so, please raise your hand icon or unmute yourself at this time. All right, not seeing any. We'll go ahead and close public participation for this evening. Next up, we have presentations. There are none, which will then take us to our consent calendar for this evening. We have 2 items on the consent calendar. Requested changes to adopt the consent calendar.
I motion that we adopt the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first. There's no discussion. Go ahead and we'll call the roll.
Thank you. Director Moore?
Yes.
Director Hawkins is absent. Vice President Jenkins?
Yes.
President Young?
Yes.
Director Garcia?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes 4-0-1.
Okay. All right. Now that takes us to the part I think most everybody in the audience is waiting for. So, Mr. General Manager, how do you want to lead
Thank you.
off on this?
Yeah, a little bit of an intro for us. Just to give you a little bit of a history on this item, we began advertising for RFPs for state and federal lobbyists on October 23rd. 3 state and 5 federal firms submitted proposals, 1 submitted for both state and federal services. Interviews were held for all firms on December 4th in front of 2 separate panels, 1 internal panel, 1 external panel. The firms were scored and ranked. The results of those interviews are included on the data sheets we provided to the board in their binders tonight. Information was brought forward to the External Affairs Committee on December 12th with staff recommendation to bring the 3 highest rated firms from both the state and federal side to the full board for final interviews and selections. And our thoughts on this is because this is a big decision for the district, for the board. It's a big dollar item. It's an item with broad interest with the full board, and because each board member has various interactions with our lobbyists from time to time, our lobbyists will carry our reputation and message to DC and Sacramento and will be a critical part of our regional partnerships and our emerging grants program. So given all that, we really wanted the full board to be on board with the selection, and the committee agreed and referred the selections to the full board. So starting with the federal firms, we had a special board meeting on January 11th. We interviewed 3 federal firms, and the board selected Turch and Associates. So today, the same process with 3 state lobbyists up for interviews. And to all of you, thanks for your time and interest in the district, and we especially appreciate you making adjustments to join us here tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to Socorro to discuss the process in a little more detail.
Thank you.
Socorro?
Good evening, President Young, Vice President Jenkins, members of the board. So this evening, the process will follow as follows. It's a 30-minute interviews, 10 minutes introduction of firm and services, and there'll be 15 minutes of questions from the board directors. We did supply some suggested questions for you, and we asked that each of you ask one question and stay with the same question throughout for all 3 firms. So 3 minutes, 5 board members equals 15 minutes. And then we'll finish up with a 5-minute wrap up with President Young asking the last question. We do have a timer up here with the clock, so we will be keeping tabs of the time, and we'll let you know once if you get close to that time period. So is there any questions you have?
I don't
No,
think so.
I think we're good. Clear as mud.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you, John. Thank you, Socorro. And by the way, thank you for putting together these wonderful binders on the firms to be considered this evening. I really appreciate all the hard work you and your team put into putting all this together. So just want to start out with that. So we're going to go ahead and did we have a set order or?
Yes, so the set order first will be California Strategies, and then we have Trust S Inc., and we'll end in Townsend Public Affairs.
All right. So at this time, we'll start off with California Strategies, and whoever's going to lead us off, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, General Manager, and the board. We appreciate the time this evening to present a proposal to you. It's been a great experience thus far. Please tolerate me being in my car. I'm at a planning commission hearing in the Central Valley tonight, so stepped out for this. But we'll have our vice chairman of the firm, Jim Lights, go ahead and kick us off.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for having us this evening. My name is Jim Lights, and partner here in the firm, and I serve as vice chairman. We are the largest public policy consulting firm in the state. We've been in business over 25 years and have 35 partners in offices all around the state. Our partners, as you clearly know here, represent former elected officials, cabinet secretaries, and senior staff in both the legislative and executive branches of government. Our expertise covers a wide variety of topics, and enjoy about our firm is the ability to tap into the expertise of our partners. We are bringing our clients the solutions and outcomes that they are looking for. So we have a lot of very current contacts in both the legislative and executive branches of government, and certainly feel and believe that our relationships are real and genuine, and where we enjoy a lot of respect within state government. So I'll end there and hand it back to you, Kristen.
Thank you, Jim. And Socorro, I don't know if we should tell you when to switch the slides or if we're having some technical difficulty.
Yeah, you can just mention next slide.
Oh, okay. So that's the information that Chairman Lights just went over. And the next 2 slides you can go through, we'll just do brief introductions for each of us. So on the next slide, I'm Kristen Olson-Kate and have been a partner at California Strategies for about 5 years now. Prior to that, I was in elected office at the local level, first on the city council, then in the state legislature, and then on the county board of supervisors. So have strong bipartisan relationships in the legislature to this day, and work in a variety of policy areas, water being one of the most prominent, but water, energy, general business, healthcare. And as Jim said, we're well versed in a number of topics and enjoy representing folks in the legislature. As he mentioned, we really focus on our approach through genuine relationships. And so the relationships that I have in the legislature, I work to leverage those for the good of the district's priorities. Prior to elected office, relations, messaging, public affairs. And with that, I'll kick it over to Claire Van Sweden.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claire Van Zyden, and I'm a partner also at CalStrat and have been part of CalStrat for the last 15 years. And during that time, have primarily focused on everything relating to climate. So that includes water, transportation, energy, and I lead our grants and incentives practice. And so with that, a lot of what I do is help clients navigate the public funding process. So that includes identifying existing funding opportunities, working backwards from your goals and objectives, your priority projects, and then identifying existing funding opportunities that are out there that fit well. In the event that we don't find existing funding opportunities, I'm also a registered lobbyist. And so a lot of what we do is we help clients either tweak existing funding programs to be able to fit with the priority projects, or working with the legislature and the governor's office and through the budget process to create new programs in order to fit those projects. And so I'm glad to expand on that further, but a lot of my role is helping to identify. So in addition to the advocacy work to create those programs and identifying them, we also help in terms of the which is heavily technical mixed with political. And so I help lead that effort for our firm and have helped clients secure hundreds of millions of dollars in various programs across really all kind of climate related agencies, as well as through the budget process. And with that, we'll kick it to the next slide. That Senator Brulte is our next person to introduce himself.
Well, thank you for allowing us to be here. I'm Jim Brulte. I represented Riverside and San Bernardino County in the state legislature for 14 years. I run the Inland Empire Office of California Strategies, and my job is to interface with local electeds. We have really good relationships in Sacramento, and I have really good relationships across the Inland Empire and San Bernardino County specifically. Kristen.
All right. Well, I'll just jump in here. Again, Jim Lights. I have been with the firm for just about 9 years, but 2024 marks my beginning of my 26th year as a registered lobbyist here in Sacramento. And we certainly feel that with our variety of policy backgrounds, as you can see, I've done a number of things in a wide variety of areas and certainly look forward to working with the team here to support your needs in Sacramento.
And we'll move to the next slide with Claire.
Great. So in terms of key areas of expertise, obviously the team that we assembled here is well versed in water issues. And so we're going to have a whole separate slide on the next slide that Kristen will go through in terms of our water policy expertise and experience. But in addition to that, we also recognize public utility. There are likely other needs that you'll have. So whether that's in transportation, and a good example of that is we've worked with other water districts specifically on a bill last year that had to do with ARB's Advanced Clean Fleet Rule. So this was a rule requiring the purchase of zero emission trucks. And with that have worked, with the legislature, ARB and others in terms of looking at potential exclusions for that and working with ARB to really recognize a lot of the emergency response vehicles needed for a water utility. And so that's one example of where sort of the transportation piece and our area of expertise and our relationships with ARB and others really were helpful in terms of pushing that forward. Local government, just here tonight, I know that there was a Brown Act, piece of legislation that was issued in order to have folks participate remotely. And I think that part of it is understanding that there are a lot of local government issues and bills and things like that that we have expertise on that we can help and support you all on in Sacramento. and at the state level. And then energy and resources, we also recognize this will likely be a key focus area for you all. Things like the upcoming climate bond that we can help in terms of providing background and potential funding opportunities and things like that. And then of course the state budget. And so this, when we're talking about priority projects and funding for priority projects, this is an area that this team has really strong expertise in helping clients secure dollars through the budget process. And with that, I'll pass it over to Kristen to give the background on water.
Thanks, Claire. As Claire mentioned, next slide, please. We have deep experience in water policy. We work with a number of water districts up and down California and all the different regions. And I personally am actively involved with the Association of California Water Agencies, with the California Foundation for Energy and the Environment, in the economy, and several other relevant trade associations that water districts often work with to form
Just want to interrupt
coalition.
and let you know.
I'm sorry?
We've got about 1 minute and 30 seconds left.
Okay, we'll be quick. So anyway, again, steeped in water policy. Claire is steeped in funding opportunities for water. We'll move to the next slide. And that shows us interacting with some of our water clients in the governor's administration. The proposed scope of services, we're happy to answer any questions here, but we feel fully prepared to deliver on each of the items outlined by the RFP, both on the grant side, on the legislative side, and on the regulatory side, and also in communications if that's ever needed, and message development. With that, I will turn it over to Senator Brulte to close our presentation. And that on our final slide, please. Jim Brulte?
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, we're very pleased to be able to make our presentation. We try to tailor our work to the specific needs of our client. We've had hundreds of clients over the last 25 years with California Strategies. Our job is to elevate your issue and accelerate the solution, and we look forward to answering your question.
All right, well, thank you so much. We sure do appreciate the presentation. We can, I think, go ahead and take that down maybe. All right, so next up we do have questions from board members. So I will lead us off with the first question. How would you describe your lobbying firm's overall experience and expertise in advocating for water districts within the state? And how is that experience shaped by your firm's current presence in Sacramento?
Sure, I'll start with this, and my colleagues may want to add. But as I mentioned, we represent several other water districts in the state, Southern California, Central Coast, as well as Central Valley. And so we are regularly in attendance at the Assembly and Senate water committees, are often providing testimony during public comment during those bill hearings. We also actively engage with legislators and legislative staff one-on-one in advance of those hearings to educate them about the particular issues, answer any questions, offer ourselves as a resource if they need additional information. Also on the regulatory side, we monitor those proceedings very closely, can also actively participate in those. Claire mentioned all of our water districts last year in particular were interested in CARB's Clean Fleets rule. So we actively engaged and reached out to individuals at CARB to make sure that we were working with them and the legislature and the governor's office to craft a solution that would work. And Claire may want to add stuff on the grants and funding side.
Yeah, and then I'll just add that in addition to the legwork, regulatory work, for many of our water clients, we're actively monitoring existing funding opportunities that are out there, whether that's at DWR, the State Water Board, others, and also actively involved in the budget process in terms of securing dollars for water clients. And so really what we try and do is work backwards from your priority projects, as I mentioned. So with our clients, what they're focused on and working on, and then help to secure dollars specifically for those projects or create new funding opportunities. And so, there's various examples that we could give, whether that's sustainable groundwater management, wastewater treatment, water infrastructure, et cetera.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Dan?
Thank you for participating and for being here this evening. My question is, can you provide examples from water district clients who have benefited from your firm's grant and appropriations lobbying efforts?
I'll start with the budget. Claire will have information to add on the grant side. For one of our districts, we were able to secure an $18 million earmark in the budget, specifically for one of their large infrastructure projects for purposes of the environmental planning and advance work that needs to be done in order to make that project shovel ready. Obviously, this year we're facing a much more challenging state budget year, but we believe in playing the long game and making sure that our water agencies are ready for success when the budget situation turns around, because you never know when an opportunity might show up. For example, the Pro Tem's office always tells this story to many of our water clients that there was a particular budget year a couple years ago where literally the night before the budget was going to be voted on in its first committee, they were looking for an additional project to fund. And so making sure that we are communicating with legislators and staff early and often about an agency's priorities and what is ready for funding is really key to ultimate success in getting something included in the budget.
And I'll just expand on that. So there's other examples that we've had for other water district clients that we've secured dollars through the state budget process, including $10 million through the actual budget process, and then an additional $10 million for competitive proposals. That was on behalf of another water district. Another water district we worked with and have been working with is secured $2 million from the Department of Water Resources, or DWR, for sustainable groundwater management. We've also secured funding through other agencies that may not be as typical, such as the California Energy Commission, where we specifically, this was for ARA dollars, this was for federal dollars that came through the CEC, and that was to help deploy solar as well as energy efficiency measures. And then, other stormwater treatment grants that we've secured over the years, and then also grants through the State Water Board for wastewater treatment and water quality. So those are just kind of a highlight of at least recent ones that we've helped folks secure. But what we try and do is, in addition to the sort of usual suspects, such as the State Water Board and DWR, is also look to agencies like the CEC, ARB, and others that may also have funding opportunities to help carry out specific projects from the district.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Kelvin?
Sure. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. Have you developed relationships with other lawmakers who are champions of DEI initiatives and causes? And how do you plan to collaborate with them in advocating for WV, West Valley Water District's initiatives for DEI?
Well, if you like, I can start there. One thing I'd like to mention is that we developed our own DE&I policy here at California Strategies a couple of years ago, and is something we've really incorporated into our operations, including recruitment and how we interact with each other as best we can. And we all have relationships across the various caucuses within the legislature, whether that's the Black Caucus, the Latino Caucus, the Women's Caucus, the LGBTQ plus caucus. We all have relationships across those different entities. And of course, many of those individuals have been champions in the last couple of years of not only the legislature's own efforts, but those that they may want to see enacted in a policy manner for the state itself.
Thank you.
All right. Channing?
I'm sorry I missed some of the presentation, but I did have an opportunity to review the materials. I want to thank Senator Bruttley and his firm for putting in a request. Obviously, I grew up and went to high school in Rancho Cucamonga, so I'm very familiar with who Senator Bruttley is and the work that he's done in our community, really our region and our state, and his leadership in the Capitol. I guess the biggest question we have, if it hasn't been addressed, is, I know your firm is growing we're a small district. How do you tailor and right fit your services for a district of our size with to be honest, we're not going to be the largest retainer you have. We're not going to be, the biggest client on the board. How are you going to make sure that your services are right fit and we receive the same kind of client that service that one of your larger clients would receive?
Sure, I'm happy to start with that. And if anybody wants to chime in, please feel free to do so on our team. I think it's a really good question. And because we do have a wide variety of clients, as you know, but it's really important to us, as our last slide spoke to, that we have a custom tailored approach for every single one of our clients, no matter what the subject matter is, and no matter how small or large a client it is. We believe a client is putting their trust and their faith in us when they sign us up to be their representation and lobbying firm in Sacramento, and that matters. Sure, the client finds value in the services that we provide, that they feel they matter as much as any other client, no matter what others are paying. And so each of us individually really tries to provide that very custom support. And our goal, if we're doing our job well, our goal would be for you to feel like you're our top paying client that we've ever had.
Let me just add that almost all of our client development is through word of mouth. And we work in a business where one aw shit wipes out 100 attaboys. So we work very hard to make sure each and every one of our clients is happy. Because word of mouth can be very, very helpful and it can be very, very harmful. And I'm happy to say that at least all of my clients have been happy with the process, and we look forward to working with you and having you say, hey, this was the best decision we made this year.
And then I'll just add one last thing, is that I really feel like for all the clients that we work on, that we really become part of your team. And so we really see ourselves as, working directly with you, but also sort of, all working together towards the same issues and the same goals. Because ultimately, we are putting ourselves in front of folks that we have these strong relationships with and advocating on behalf of you. And we want to feel part of that team. Your problems become our problems. And we really work together to achieve those goals and those outcomes. And so, with that, the more sort of communication and collaboration we have, the better we are in terms of succeeding with those outcomes and all playing together on one team.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. Angie?
Good evening. Sorry, couldn't be there to ask in person, but here's my question. How do you stay informed about the latest legislative developments that could affect your clients?
So I'll start with that. Thank you for the question. A few different ways. One is through involvement with various trade associations that also represent you as a district. So one example being the Association of California Water Agencies, another example being the California Special Districts Association. So making sure that we're on their distribution lists for anything that comes across their radar, and also in the regular meetings they hold, keep us informed on important relevant issues that affect your district and others across the state. Another way is every week we provide our clients with an extensive legislative report. And so we're tracking all the bills in the legislature that have an impact on the district potentially with either an opportunity or a threat. And we begin the year by having a very broad universe of bills that we track so that we're not missing anything. And then we work with the client to tailor it down and narrow it into the scope of bills that you guys really care about. And then as we track throughout the year, we make sure we're armed with the information of what's happening on what bill, and that we're keeping you as the client informed on the opportunities to engage in those efforts along the way. And it's a similar process that we employ in the regulatory space.
I will also add, in addition to those traditional monitoring methodologies that Kristen described, it's also presence. Every time I go to the Capitol, where the legislature is housed now, I pick up some piece of information that benefits or affects one of my clients that I would not have picked up had I not physically been in that building walking around. And so just being there gives you access, frankly, to information that you may not have just sitting at your desk going through the traditional methods that we would otherwise use to keep track of legislative proposals.
All right, well, thank you so much. So I'll ask kind of the closing question, which kind of gives you your kind of 5-minute wrap up time. So why should West Valley Water District select your firm?
I'll start and maybe we just do a 30-second round robin. We think West Valley Water District should select our firm because we are hard workers and we have proven success on delivering for water agencies across the state. Piggybacking on what Jim Light said, we have relationships in place in legislative offices so that certain chiefs of staff or committee consultants will call us to give the heads up on something. And that ultimately makes us stronger in delivering on your goals and objectives. Claire?
I'll expand on that by sharing that the team of the 4 of us that we assembled here, Jim mentioned at the start of this, we have 35 partners in multiple offices throughout the state. And so when we pursued this opportunity and submitted a proposal, we thought long and hard in terms of who all should we include on this team. And the 4 of us here, we feel like directly respond to the scope of services that you all set forth, and our areas of expertise, our relationships, our success, our track records directly align with the scope of services and the key outcomes that you all described in the RFP. And so we feel like we are the best firm to help carry out that scope.
I'll let Senator Brulte have the last word. I will just say that, we're very used to working in teams in our firm, and we often service clients in a team format. We'll typically have a lead person. Kristen, in this case, is our lead for West Valley, but we're all there to support and do our parts on the field, if you will, for whatever the client may need at any given time.
I actually think you should hire us because you're smart, insightful public officials. And a year from now, you'll look back and say, this has been an excellent partnership, and you look forward to many, many more years. And let me just close by thanking you for your public service. It's awfully tough to be an elected official today. It's even tougher to be a local elected official, and we appreciate each and every one of you, your service, and we appreciate your time listening to us tonight.
Great. Thank you so much, Senator, and Kristen and Claire and Jim. We really do appreciate you taking the time out to speak to us this evening, and you definitely, I think, given us a lot to. With that, we'll transition to the next firm, which is Tressess, I believe. Yes. All right. So I believe we have a representative for Tressess here. Yes, sir. So, okay. Excellent. All right, so to start off, you'll have 10 minutes to give us a presentation, and then we'll do a kind of a round robin of questions. So the floor is yours.
Yes. Can you be the main? Thank you. Reconfigure the Zoom to allow Senator Polanco to be the main person in the screen.
Yeah, I think once he introduces himself, it'll pop up.
Okay.
There we
Okay,
go.
great.
I feel like we're connected.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Young and board members. It's a pleasure to be back in a different capacity. By way of the record and introduction, my name is Francisco Leal. I am the owner of a lobbying entity called the Legislative Advocacy Group. It's an entity that provides lobbying services primarily to public agencies, which is our emphasis. Today with me in partnership, not in crime, is Mr. Senator Polanco, and he will give his presentation after mine. I made that decision. Got distracted. I'm also an attorney, as some of you know. I've had the pleasure and privilege of representing this district on a couple of matters, employment, and in particular, the infamous KETAM matter that was quite a challenge for us. I'm also a Southern California Water Replenishment District, and I serve as General Counsel for the Rialto Unified School District, which is where I was earlier. I bring the legal credential up not because I want to brag about it, but because I think it's a really useful tool in this business. I think it's very useful to, one, be a lawyer, and also and in my case, to be a lawyer who represents water districts, I think provides more value to the team. Just a personal assessment. At this juncture, I think that what I want to do is I don't want to leave Senator Polanco behind. I would like for him to present himself, and then we can move on with our presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. I'm Richard Polanco. I had the honor of serving 16 years in the legislature, along with former colleague Jim Brulte at the time. I've served my last 4 years as Senate Majority Leader. Upon my retirement, we established Tres Inc., a boutique lobbying and government relation firm, a firm that has the experience in the subject matter before us, water, experience in the regulatory and the budgetary as well. And we are a team coupled with Francisco Leal and his firm. We believe we bring added value to the district. We've had a relationship with the district very early on. We were very much involved with the Romer project. That project was a project that the district had as a priority. The firm was able to obtain the support of Alois Reyes, the majority leader at the time, along with Assemblymember Ramos and I believe Senator Ochoa, who signed on to the letter of support. I was successful in arranging with your former general manager the meeting with the State Revolving Loan Fund. The firm brings the experience in the building as well as in the administrative side or the executive branch of government. We pride ourselves in listening to what the need is. We're most effective when the client is engaged with us. It is a partnership. Relationship in this line of work is everything, as you've heard. Our relationships are deep among both the various caucuses that exist with the legislature. We've had success in representing the Water Replenishment District on legislative matters. We have represented Upper San Gabriel Water District, the Metropolitan Water District as well. And I'm looking forward to answer whatever the questions may be. Let me close my presentation by basically indicating that we're in the line of work of business, we're in the line of work of trust, we're in the line of work of being able to bring the kind of attention, number one, and resolute to the issues that matter to the district. I look forward to answering whatever questions you may all have, and thank you for the opportunity to address you.
I would also like to point out that we are the firm that helped establish your IE Works, and we continue to work with them as they reach that next level. And part of our strength is a commitment to this community and trying to be more involved in the issues that are pertain to not just yourself, but the adjacent communities like Rialto, their governance, Fontana, and those areas.
Okay. All right.
Questions?
Well, thank you
ready.
so much. Appreciate you both being here this evening. So I'll lead us off with the questions. So the first question is, how would you describe your firm's overall experience and expertise in advocating for water districts within the state? How is that experience shaped by your firm's current presence in Sacramento?
Senator, would you lead me on that one, please?
Yes. Several of the members of this board participated when we were clear of the need and went to Sacramento. We went to Sacramento to educate the members of the district with regards to the Romer treatment facility. We followed up with requests that were adhered to by Assemblywoman Reyes, who very graciously reached out to the funding source. That experience, I believe, showed and demonstrated the relationship aspect and the respect that the firm has and brings when it is lobbying directly in Sacramento. We recently had the water replenishment bill had legislation that dealt with issues of competitive bidding. That bill became law. It was authored by the newly elected Assembly member Pedro Carrillo, who is now the chair of the local government committee. And so those are two examples of water districts that we currently are engaged with. I have engaged in the past with Upper San Gabriel, which is more on the legislative side, as well as the Metropolitan Water District and the San Gabriel Water Company, which services the city of El Monte. There it was more regulatory. It was a regulatory issue before the California Public Utilities Commission. Those are, that is the experience that we bring in the subject area of water.
And if I can add to that, gentlemen and ladies, I think that the underlying issue that I want to convey to you is a commitment. It's a commitment not just to the district and its goals and policies, but to all of you and what it is you want to achieve within that as representatives and local elected officials. I think part of that comes from representing local elected officials over a career and ascertaining what it is that they would like to do, what issues are important to them, because they're responsible and responsive to their constituents. And it is imperative for us to be able to connect not just with one of you, but all of you and each of you, so that the legislative agenda is properly defined and then implemented.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Dan?
Thank you for attending. Thank you for participating and being here. My question is in regards to grants and appropriations. Can you provide any examples from water district clients who have benefited from your firm's grant and appropriations lobbying efforts?
Senator Polanco, I once again yield the floor to you.
The grants, we have not engaged in a lot of grant writing per se. We have the capacity to do grant writing, but we have not, the clients in the water space, they have not requested or identified potential areas for us to engage on their behalf on grants. Do we have capacity to do so? Yes, we do. Having said that, outside of the water world, plenty of grants have been written and funded very successfully. They're not related to the water sector, if you will, but definitely the list is substantial. Very knowledgeable of foundation money, very knowledgeable about grant money within water sectors. The water bond bills obviously are key, not only to understand, but to have relationship with those authors. Eduardo Garcia, Senator Allen on the Senate side. Safe drinking water funding in the past has been an issue that the State Water Resources Board had been through the state audit, was very critical of the lapse of timing. The number of small water districts that are in danger, who are not providing a level of quality. This is not the case, obviously, with the district before us here. But the original question was, have we performed in grant writing for water districts, the 2 water districts that we represent? We have not, but we do have the capacity to do so.
And I'd like to add to that well, there's grant writing, and then there is looking for funds. And now I have a recollection in this district, because I was here when Assemblywoman Reyes came over, as we're working very hard to fill that gap within the rules that only allowed a certain amount of money. And we're working with to try to figure out how to tweak that rule, how to change it so that the district would get even more. And I recall that I look at that as a great effort. And I remember meeting with some of the finance folks and interfacing with your consultant, I forgot her name, and trying to determine how it is that we can take this this rule that provides for like a 70% amount and try to expand it to make it 100 by creating the narrative as to the need for the funding. And I can point to that as a funding issue.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kelvin?
Okay. Have you developed relationships with lawmakers who are champions of DEI causes? And how do you plan to collaborate with them in advocating for West Valley Water District's DEI's initiatives?
I will convey to you that that DEI is under attack in many places, and that its foundation and premises are how it's been outlawed in some states, and that there is a need to refocus and reemphasize on a notion premise that a lot of us weren't even that aware of. What is DEI? You know, and I'm witnessing folks kind of minimizing the D part of it, because it's an ability to transcend an obstacle or other issues. And I think that it is imperative in this state, and I think in this community, that the values of DEI be upheld and that we continue with them. I am, well, I was part of the DEI policy at WRD. We hired consultants, we did the interviews, we created a policy, and I believe that's something that needs to continue. I'm a strong advocate for it, and I am concerned that given the climate in some places that we may be losing that part. That's my statement for DEI. I hope it
Thank you.
answers your question.
All right, thank you. Channing?
Well, first, I want to thank Senator Polanco for making the time this evening. You know, I had an opportunity to participate in the WELL program. And when I participated in WELL, we had an opportunity to go and meet with members as far as way. I know when you serve, you represented Los Angeles, Los Angeles, the Board of Los Angeles going east into the San Gabriel Valley, and you know your time in the late state legislature is what it is. It's something that won't be erased from the history books. But I had to have the opportunity to learn about the kind of innovative legislation that you pass. It's called the Polanco Parks, and what at the time that you were trying to do to ensure people who didn't have access and didn't have a right to clean drinking water, to ability to live their lives in a humane way, and that you working without people who had a lot of funds, without people who had money with power and influence, were able to carve out a place in our country, in our state, where they can exist and be free and raise children and grab a hold to American dreams. So there's a part of the legacy that you have that is beyond what we could talk about really in this finite interview. And Mr. Leal, I know that you have broken many barriers throughout your life. I know you don't bring it up like other people do. There's a school that wears crimson. They bring it up all the time. There's this other school where it's blue and has a Y, and they don't bring it up as much. And so I'm trying to raise my kid to figure out which one they want to go to. But I know what you have done in our region, in the legal community, the leadership that you have provided, and really, I know for even a firm like mine that's growing and operating in that space, that what you have done has set the mark, to be honest with you. There's no other way to describe it, to make a dream reality, that other people can be general counsels that don't always have to fit the cookie cutter mold.
Thank you.
So I just want to acknowledge that, and I was very happy to see your application to participate and be our lobbyists. And I've been very happy in my visits with Senator Polanco over the past year when, talking about water. I know he's leaving the legislature. Eduardo Garcia, who was at the time, over water, and the biggest water asset in the state. And I have a little girl and she gives me hugs every night, but he hugged Senator Polanco like that was his. I just know the influence and access there, and I can go on and on about it. I also could speak about what you've done for us in that Key Tam lawsuit. And for folks that don't know, we have counsel here. Key Tam is a very complex litigation that's brought by individuals. And the way that your firm was able, despite all the noise and controversies, able to execute and litigate that case.
You can bring all this up in the discussion.
Oh,
Can we
I'm
get to
just,
the question?
but I'm getting to my question, but I'm gonna take my time, as they say in the church.
We have discussion for that.
Yeah, we do, but I'm gonna make sure the record reflects what it needs to reflect. And so I thank you for what you did for this agency. I thank you for how you've contributed, not only as a lobbyist, but as a lawyer, which most people can't step into both of those lanes. My question is, with that being said, is how do you, I know we're not the water replenishment district. I know we're not Rialto Unified School District and some of your bigger clients. How do you plan on right-fitting an agency like ours that doesn't have the biggest retainer, the biggest resources, to ensure that we get the same quality of service that some of your bigger clients get?
I will take that response as a guy with very few clients in the lobbying area, and legal clients along the way. I think for us, it's an opportunity to represent all of you. And for me in particular, because I know all of you in different capacities, and to be able to give you an additional level of service that is different, but it's still me. And the opportunity to deliver, and which is a big issue in our industry. Can you deliver? Can you access a legislator? Can you figure out how to get something done? Are issues that we take very personally, and I think in part it's because we take you personally. And we don't have a lot of places to take personally. So to me, and I've conveyed this to a couple of you, it would be a privilege to come back to you in a different capacity to give you the same level of service I gave you in the past, but to give it to you by way of legislation and assess what it is that you would like me and Senator Polanco to do, and do it, move on it. And that includes sponsoring legislation. I mean, this year you would have to ambush a bill or something like that, but I'm anxious for the opportunity to define something very specific, as has been done at WRD. And by the way, I'm not their lobbyist. I'm their general counsel.
You're a lawyer, I know.
To put the lobbying folks to work, as opposed to the monthly reports, so that something more tangible and specific is done for your district. And I want to take on that challenge because it will then reveal the degree of relationships that we have not only in Sacramento, but also in this area and in LA.
Thank you for asking the question.
All right, thank you very much. Angie?
Good evening. My question is, how do you stay informed about the latest legislative developments that could affect your clients?
Can you repeat the
that,
question?
Angie, please?
How do you stay informed about the latest legislative developments that could affect your clients?
Although we're not a member of ACWA, to subscribe to ACWA and follow a lot of what is important to all the members there. In addition to that, obviously, we track the legislation, no different than the others, and we do provide a report, legislative update, with regards to water issues. We provide not only a summary of the action, but also provide recommendation as to the impact it may have or may not have upon the district. Last year, as you know, water rights was very hostile issue, and the district took the recommendations that the firm provided and opposed much of that legislation. And so we track it. The client finds something that is of importance, whether it be here at the state level or even at the federal level. The relationships the firm brings are beyond just Sacramento. Unfortunately, Grace Napolitano is leaving, but I served with her. I served with half the members of the California delegation. And so there's a lot of resources and relationships that I've built over the last 20, 30 plus years. Relationships matter. Your integrity matters. Your honesty matters, and it makes a difference in representing the clients. But specifically to your question, we do track it, we do subscribe, do provide it, and will respond with regards to any specific issue that comes immediately to our attention.
And I want to convey to you the importance of staying in touch with issues. Aqua is a good example. I've seen some of you there at the conferences. There's so much literature out there on water issues. It's incredible. But I want to point out Aqua because the last time I was there, I mean, you have a Prop 218 issue that's going to impact you, and you have legislation right now, and I think it's AB 227, that's going to create a law that will limit the ability of litigants. And we're seeing, and your legal counsel can assert that, I hope we're seeing much more litigation in connection with Prop 218 challenges. I just came out of a big lawsuit from WRD. There was legislation in the past that limited those actions to 120 days for statute of limitations issues. There's now current legislation that's in the docket now that essentially will require them to voice their concerns at a hearing and limit the hearing or the litigation to those concerns. And I think that's a significant advance. I think Aqua is all over that bill. I think this agency should jump on that and also promote that legislation. Prior to that, there was PFAS. PFAS is, I mean, we don't know what's coming down from the state. Other states already have their regulations. We have an emergent set of laws that are dealing with the issue, but there's one issue no one's looking at with a lot of diligence, and that is that there's legislation at the federal level that will designate certain PFAS compounds as hazardous substances. And by that I mean as defined under Superfund. And I used to work for the EPA prior to doing this, and if those components become if you become part of the ownership stream of that, you will be held liable, even if it's just brine. Now, there are various letters and attempts at legislation to carve out, because I'm part of that, to carve out public agencies so that they don't have to be subjected to what is strict liability and joint and several liability. Your legal counsel can tell what that means. But it just means that, that anywhere along the line of ownership or exposure, you have liability, and it could be 100%. So these are areas that come to us as we go to conferences, as we engage folks in the area, and as we do reading. I mean, you just read and agendas. I happen to be in a great position that I'm general counsel for water agency, and so issues just come my way, and I'm forced to learn them.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so to wrap it up, I'll give you kind of the final wrap-up question, and you'll have 4 minutes to kind of wrap up as well. Why should West Valley Water District choose your firm?
Senator Blanco, would you want to go first? I want to defer to you since you're not here.
You go ahead, or let me go first. No, you go ahead, Francisco. Go ahead.
I think that we carry just a very deep commitment to issues that face our communities. And I think that goes a long way in representing a client. I was surveying areas that would impact you, and I came across this making water conservation a way of life issue, and how it's just taken its own path without a lot of us having input. And now that we're seeing the final product, we're realizing that if we let it go through, we're going to have low-income communities bear the brunt of higher rates. And so that needs to be addressed and changed. We did provide a letter, I believe, for the water board, which, somehow went in a direction that shouldn't have gone. You have the Prop 218 issues, you have PFAS. There's just a lot of issues that I want to engage in for the benefit of this district. You've asked why, and I guess my answer to you, Mr. President, is that I think with us, and now more engaged with me, coming into your world of legislation and issues you want to address, I think you're going to get a lot of value and a lot of commitment and a lot of time.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Liao and Senator. We appreciate your time being with us this evening, and we do appreciate it, and thank you very much.
It's great to
Thank
see
you.
all of you again, and take care and have a good evening.
Thank you. All right, and now that brings us to Townsend and Associates. Thank you for bearing with us through the process. So I think by now you kind of know the layout. So you got 10 minutes, and floor is yours. Thank you.
Here. Perfect. Thank you, President, members of the board. I'm excited to be back in front of you today. My name is Corey Takanen, Vice President with Townsend Public Affairs, and I am here with two of my colleagues, Casey Elliott, Vice President, and Eric O'Donnell, Director with our firm. And I'm excited to lead our presentation today and provide you with our background and our expertise as a state advocacy firm. TPA was founded in 1998 by Christopher Townsend with the goal that our work and our advocacy will support organizations that improve our communities. And that's what inspires each of us every day to do what we do. Water and wastewater policy has been a part of our firm's history since we were founded 25 years ago. A few of our first clients included the Orange County Water District, the Orange County Sanitation District, and MoDOC, the Municipal Water District of Orange County. We have remained entrenched in legislative advocacy in the water world and in funding advocacy in the water world, and we look forward to bringing that experience to the district. We have represented over 250 local public agency clients over the last 25 years, and we were recently ranked 8th overall in the state of California by the California Secretary of State. We are the only firm that specializes in legislative advocacy and grant funding in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. And I know that this interview is for state advocacy only, but I do want to still mention that because of our expertise at both the state and federal levels of government, we have an advantage that no other firm can provide. A lot of the policies and the funding start in Washington, D.C. and trickle down to Sacramento. And we have the ability to see it before it even hits the state and get in front of it and provide you with that expertise and knowledge. We have secured over $2.9 billion in funding for our clients, and we've also had incredible success on the legislative side, with over 150 client-sponsored bills signed into law, with hundreds more that we have engaged on to secure amendments on behalf of our clients. We have a team of 17 registered lobbyists and funding advocates. You have 3 of us in front of you today, and we are 3 of the individuals at our firm that have the most experience in water policy, as well as the most experience securing results while at Townsend Public Affairs. Collectively, amongst the 3 of us, you have 40 years of experience at Townsend Public Affairs serving our clients. That makes us sound really old. I really believe you have the A+ team here. You have the A+ team dedicated to serving you, but we also have an A team. I'll say we're the A++ team. You also have an A+ team behind us of 14 other registered state lobbyists where we can draw on their expertise and their relationships at any time to help advance your agenda in both the legislative and the funding spheres. We use a collaborative approach to provide the best of both worlds to the district. You will have customized and focused customer service from a single dedicated client manager, but you also have relationships that the 17 registered lobbyists at our firm will bring to the table. You also have the commitment of senior executives. Both Casey and I are 2 of our 3 vice presidents, and we'll both be engaged in this relationship. We'll both be providing our expertise, our relationships, and making sure that this partnership is successful. That provides you with background on our firm, and with the time remaining, I want to transition to our approach in serving you. Immediately upon beginning our relationship, we would want to conduct a detailed orientation with your staff, with the board, and anyone else relevant to learn about the district, your challenges, your priorities, and create a strategic legislative and funding customized advocacy plan. That customized plan will serve as our roadmap over the course of our relationship. It will move, it will shake, we will adjust as needed, but it will be our roadmap as we implement our legislative strategy in Sacramento. We will leverage our relationships with every member in the building, and we will identify opportunities to share your story, to build your brand in Sacramento, and to ensure that you have a voice and a seat at the table on relevant legislation and policy topics. And as we do that, we really aim to serve you as an extension of your staff. We want to ensure that communication is seamless. We want to ensure that you're getting email updates, phone calls, constant communication on ongoing and future legislation, regulatory measures, funding opportunities, and any activity that could impact the district, as well as what's going on behind the scenes in Sacramento. We're committed to ensuring that you know what's going on, so you almost feel like you're there with us, walking the halls of the swing space as we fight on your behalf. And that will take the form of weekly updates, monthly reports, presentations, constant communication, check-in calls, and anything else that helps the board and the staff get the information that you need in a timely fashion. Finally, we're really focused on maximizing your influence in Sacramento. We want to be your partner to elevate your profile throughout the state of California and to establish you as a leader in the water space. The Romer Water Filtration Facility is an innovative project as the nation's first perchlorate treatment system with bioremediation technology. You are a visionary district as it relates to water treatment, and we want to tell your story in Sacramento, especially as access to clean water continues to be a topic of discussion. You're also a visionary district as it relates to your IE Works program, as you and your partners are continuing to build out career opportunities in the water and wastewater fields. You're already leveraging funding from the state and federal governments to create apprenticeship opportunities to expand the reputation of that program. We see opportunities with State Superintendent Tony Thurmond, who our firm has a great working relationship with. We also see opportunities with Governor Newsom's administration. The governor has set an ambitious goal to expand apprenticeships in the state of California to serve 500,000 apprenticeships by 2029, with a specific mission, just like your mission, to build a more equitable economy. We also see opportunities to leverage your partners at Baywork and leverage the legislative delegation in the Bay Area to create partnerships with them, utilize the network of legislators in the Bay Area to build on the success of the program that you have created. We have deep relationships with many of the Bay Area delegation. We have a large network of clients in that region. We've worked very closely with them for years, and we bring those relationships to the table as we want to be communicating about your programs to everybody in Sacramento. Given your priority, waterline replacements, and energy resiliency, we know that there are Sacramento, from climate funding around the discussions on the climate bond that are happening now and are targeted for the ballot in November, as well as local control legislation and continued funding for capital improvement projects. We are excited about the opportunity to advance your policy priorities, your funding priorities, and to really continue to elevate your brand in Sacramento. And with that, we will be happy to take your questions.
All right, well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So I will once again lead us off with the first question. How would you describe your lobbying firm's overall experience and expertise in advocating for water districts within the state? And how is that experience shaped by your firm's current presence in Sacramento?
Good evening, Casey Elliott, Vice President with Townsend Public Affairs. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here to present in front of you tonight. As Corey had mentioned, we as the firm have significant experience working in the water space in Sacramento, representing our. Over that time, we've worked with our clients to address a number of issues that have been of importance to them, whether that's been through direct sponsored legislation, engagement on other legislation that's active in Sacramento, formulating direct budget asks, or in working with funding opportunities through state agencies, or even where there isn't funding available, working with legislators, lawmakers to create those funding opportunities within bonds, within programs, within agencies. So over that time, we've had an opportunity to work on a number of issues, whether it be advanced water recycling, groundwater cleanup, remediation, ensuring the clean delivery of water, implementation of SGMA, different elements. So really our experiences are driven by those needs of our clients. A couple of the things I would note is, as Corey mentioned, really enjoy working with innovative and cutting edge districts. We've had a number of bills that have been first in the state, first in the nation type bills as it relates to advanced water purification, as it relates to other ancillary items such as education of water facilities. While we do work with a number of water districts, as Corey mentioned, we work with other public agencies. So getting to see those cross collaborations on things like workforce development, connecting our city partners, our special district partners with our community college partners, and establishing those cross collaborations that ultimately are aimed at helping the communities and the residents that they all serve. So again, we worked on any number of issues, but it's all driven by our clients. And then really working with them to educate legislators, legislative staff, to ensure that, as Corey had mentioned, our clients' stories are told. So it's not just coming in and we're asking for money, we're asking for a bill, that there's a deeper understanding of, again, where we're coming from, what the history has been, what the district has been successful at previously, where the challenges are, and this is why the asks are being made. Again, that's generally how we work with our clients. That's how we like to develop our experience within Sacramento with our water clients, is really developing that strong, lasting bond, not only on the client side, but on the legislative side. So then when we go to actuate the policy priorities, the funding priorities, again, there's a sense of place of where that came from.
All right, thank you very much. Dan?
All right. It's kind of like a repeat, right? Here we are asking the same questions, but it kind of gives you an advantage, I guess. So I'm big on grants and appropriations, you might notice. Can you provide examples from any of the water district clients you have that benefited from your firm's grant and appropriations lobbying efforts?
Sure. I'll start and then ask my colleague Eric to join in. We work with our clients, again, to really effectuate their funding priorities, whether that be competitive grants, whether that be state budget earmarks, including projects within bonds. So really kind of an all of the above approach. As Corey noted, as a firm, we have a dedicated grants unit, and our grants operations has helped secure nearly $3 billion in total funding for our clients. And that's competitive funding, nothing formulaic. That's through earmarks, state, federal. As we look at water specifically, we've helped our clients secure nearly $150 million in direct funding for their priority projects, including Orange County Water District. We helped them with the original funding for their groundwater replenishment system, as well as their subsequent expansions on that. But we've also worked on again, really community-based projects, such as connecting smaller water, finding funding to connect smaller water systems to more stable water systems. And those are just a couple that come off the mind. I know Eric will have a couple more, so I'll invite him to join in.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Good evening, President Young, Eric O'Donnell with Townsend Public Affairs. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you for the time. I'll just add to that every single year there's been an earmark in Sacramento since we started earmarking again out of our budget. We have secured specific funding for water for our clients in every single one of those budgets, whether that's well funding, PFAS contamination cleanup, stormwater channels, advanced metering infrastructure, whatever it may be. Every single one of those budgets has a TPA client, at least one project in there for one of our clients. And we're very proud of that. We're also able to help secure some of those major funding wins, not necessarily in the writing, which we can do, but we know is not a part of this, but in the advocacy after the fact. So after that application is submitted, there is advocacy that can and should be done to the agencies and following up, using your legislators, using your pressure points to make sure that those the reviewers understand the impact of your project and the benefits. And then I will say that there is some success as well as at advocating for reversals of some grant decisions. Just recently, I've been through a time where I wouldn't guarantee it for anyone, but the state agency did admit some fault when it comes to unnecessarily scoring poorly a certain project. We were able to bring in the right people, correct that mistake, and was able to actually unlock I think a total of $23 additional million for that project that otherwise was going to be denied. So there are some successes that you can do on the advocacy side with those relationships, utilizing your legislators and the board as well in your relationships to be able to unlock some of that funding. And then I'll also say coalition building is a huge part of this as well. Coalition building with other firms, other agencies, our clients, to advance the same priority when it comes to bonds or other grant programs. Our grants unit that Corey mentioned is very much ingrained in this process. When those guidelines are coming out for public development, we are all over them, trying to make sure they understand what's the definition of a disadvantaged community that helps us the best, right? That helps the district the best. That definition, as you know, is literally different no matter what department you're talking to. They're all different across the state. So making sure we have one we like and advocating for it as an example. And less funding, but more coalition. You know, we were significantly a part of the coalition opposing with 4 amendments on SB 1157 from Senator Hertzberg a couple of years ago for the indoor water conservation limits, which is the Making Water Conservation a Way of Life regulation. So we were able to get amendments in that bill for allowing DWR the opportunity to change that implementation date of those hard dates, which was a big win, as well as additional studies and reports that hopefully will fall in our favor as a water community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kelvin?
Good evening. Have you developed relationships with lawmakers who are champions of DEI and the causes of them? And how do you plan to collaborate with them in advocating for West Valley Water District's DEI initiatives?
It's a great question. At TPA, we really aim to foster a culture internally where every individual feels empowered, respected, and valued for their contributions. Amongst our 17 registered lobbyists and funding advocates, we all come from diverse backgrounds. Half of those are female, and we leverage all of those on behalf of our clients. Specifically as it relates to lawmakers, and I'm going to skip ahead to this relationship slide. We have deep relationships with several current members of the legislature that are very active members of the DEI community and are in leadership positions in Sacramento. We have a close relationship with Eddie Garcia, the former chair of Assembly Water Parks and Wildlife, also a close relationship with Diane Pappin, who has taken over in that role. We have a great relationship with Isaac Bryan, the chair of the Natural Resources Committee, with Mike Fong, the chair of the Higher Ed Committee, where all apprenticeship funding runs through the Higher Ed Committee. Liz Ortega from the Bay Area, who's the chair of the Labor Committee. Dave Min, chair of the Senate Natural Resources Committee. Juan Carrillo, former council member in the city of Palmdale, a TPA client, is now the chair of the Assembly Local Government Committee, and very much understands issues of local control and issues of remaining importance to local governments. And also deep relationships with new Assembly Speaker Rivas, who is very passionate and connected in the DEI community. So we have very strong relationships with current members of the legislature, current members in leadership, but we also have a focused effort on building relationships with upcoming members in the DEI community. One of our colleagues, Andres Ramirez, was just elected as the co-chair of the California Latino Capital Association Foundation, which is focused on building up providing professional development and building up Latino leaders in and around and beyond Sacramento. And several of our colleagues are also very involved in California Women Lead, which is an organization focused on empowering young women up and down the state of California to run for higher office. So it's something that, collectively as a firm, but also individually, we are all finding our opportunities to engage with different groups, whether they're in the building right now in Sacramento or they're looking to be there in a couple years. We're putting in the effort to get to know them now so that we can start to work with them on behalf of our clients as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Channing?
All right. Well, thank you for your presentation this evening. My question is, I'm familiar with Townsend. You guys work throughout the state, and you're very effective. But how are you going to tailor your services to fit our needs, being a district of our size versus some of the other districts that you have that are much bigger clients like MODOC and others who have substantial more resources, probably pay a much higher retainer than we do? How are you going to balance that and still give us the customer service that, a district of our size should receive?
Yeah, appreciate that question. I think at the core of who we are, we view advocacy as a client service relationship. As was noted earlier, this is a relationship business, not just ours in our relationships in DC or in Sacramento, but our relationship with our clients. And ultimately, that's built on the personalization. So as Corey mentioned earlier, the first thing that we do, if we would be brought on board, is to sit down, to come bring our team, to sit down with the district, with your staff, with leadership to really get that better understanding. Obviously, we've all kind of had a chance to do some homework and do some things, but that does not tell your entire story, and we want to know that. We want to know not only where your priorities are, but where the struggles have been, where the opportunities are, what challenges, where have you been successful, where have you not been successful, where can we meld relationships, because obviously you're going to have strong relationships where we have areas. So we really just want to, again, become ingrained and become a portion of that staff. So so really to tailor our services to the district is again fundamental and foundational to what we do, because the best relationships are going to be founded based on mutual understanding, mutual goals, mutual accountability. And then as Corey noted earlier, really the communication is key. We want to have continuous communication, whether that be through formal venues, board meetings, committee meetings, but also, we're texting with clients, we're on the phone with clients. We really just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So that way, as things move at the end of session or bill introduction deadline, again, we're all on the same page, and we're really developing and tailoring not only the services that we're providing, but the messaging that we're providing in Sacramento to what's going on. So really, it's kind of key and foundational, and really builds off those initial engagements, and then just is a continuous process.
And if I could just add to that, I would say, and I don't think your question said this, but we rarely, if ever, since we only represent local public agencies at the core of our firm, there's no competition necessarily between the agencies, right? It's all collaboration, and there's synergies between all of our clients, whether it's the city next door to you or another water district up in Northern California or even Southern California. There's synergies there that actually help you, and it's not a decision we make of this guy gets more time than that guy because of retainer or whatever like that. So I actually think there's more synergies than not because of our local public agency DNA.
All right, thank you. Angie?
Good evening. My question is, how do you stay informed about the latest legislative developments that could affect your clients?
Thank you for that question, Director. I'll start off here. I think the short answer is we read every bill. That's the reality. There's over 2,000 bills that were introduced in the last couple of weeks here in Sacramento. We read every single one. All 17 of our state lobbyists read every single one of those bills. That is crucial to making sure that we're not missing anything, and we are understanding that all of what our clients care about, and making sure we are prioritizing and categorizing those bills to the benefit of the board and of district staff. So that's the short answer. The longer answer is, a lot of it has been said, but we are part of the Sacramento culture up in Sacramento. We are at happy hours every week. We're at fundraisers every week. We are at ceremonies every week with legislators, with their staff, rubbing elbows. And that's when you hear, information before it becomes public. You talking to the same people over and over. You develop relationships with them, like Casey said. It's more than just work. There are some personal relationships there that we were able to learn a lot of information that we then relay back to you. Really, we are a team approach. I know it's been said before, but we really do model the team approach. TPA is in the Capitol in the swing space every single day in Sacramento, Monday through Friday. Every single day we are in the Capitol having meetings with legislators, with their staff, walking the halls. And you, like was said, you do pick up quite a bit that way, and that is relayed to you immediately. I'll also say that part of our staying informed, part of our goal is we want your legislators, when a water or air quality, whatever it is, bill hits their desk, we want them thinking of West Valley Water immediately. We want them picking up the phone, calling me to ask you, what do they think? What does West Valley think of this bill? Help me understand it. Help me understand the impacts to the district. That's the goal. That takes time. That takes relationship building. That takes effort. But that is the end game. That is the goal, is to have your legislators be calling us, be calling you directly when a bill hits their desk. And sometimes they're the first ones to know about amendments that are not public or whatever it is, and they're able to share it with us, to share it with you. I'll also say that we are business members or associate members in all of the associations that were mentioned today and more: Aqua, CSDA, CASA. We have strong relationships with Adam and his team over at Aqua. I personally attend all the Aqua conferences, all the Aqua state legislative committees, both in person and virtual. CSDA as well, with our relationships with Kyle Packham and his team over there, and Aaron Avery. So we really do embody that membership of those organizations to be able to relay that information back to the district as well, and utilize them in our advocacy efforts as a coalition.
Thank you for that.
All right, thank you very much. And so I'll close it up with your 4-minute closer of why should we pick you?
Thank you. We really believe that we have the relationships, the experience, the expertise, and the work ethic, and frankly, the grit to fight for West Valley Water District in Sacramento. It's hard work. We're in the building every single day. We're building these relationships. We have been for each of our individual entire careers. And we really want to bring those to fruition working for the Water District. We also share your core values. The 4 core values of our firm are teamwork, integrity, results-driven, and service-oriented. You obviously all work as a team every single day as the board and with your staff to serve your constituents. You all serve with integrity. You are all obviously focused on service because you ran for a public service position, and you're results driven. You want results for your constituents, and that's what we want to. That's what drives each of us every day to show up to work, to fight for our clients, and we really want to do that as a partner with you. We think it's a very natural fit, a very easy fit, one that we do every single day and we would love to do on your behalf. We believe as a firm that we are champions for better communities. We believe that each of you are champions for better communities in your district, and we appreciate the opportunity to come here and to chat with you about why we think we would be the best firm to serve West Valley and Sacramento.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. So before we transition to the discussion, I just want to take a few minutes and just first of all, thank all 3 of the firms that were represented here tonight. Really appreciate your interest in serving West Valley and serving this community. It is deeply appreciated, and regardless of how this discussion and decision goes, just wanted to express on behalf of my colleagues and the agency just our deep appreciation for your time here this evening and for participating in this process. Before I open it up for discussion, I do want to maybe just kind of frame a little bit of some overall thoughts, just as not only the chair, but the longest serving board member at this point, which is a little strange as I used to be the youngest board member, but you know, when I first came onto the board here at West Valley, we didn't have really any lobbyist. And one of the first things we did was we got a federal lobbyist. And this is a very good firm, very boutique, and really enjoyed the gentleman, former member of Congress. And we had some successes, but after time we reopened it and considered, okay, do we need maybe a firm with a little more muscle? And ultimately, we decided to make a change and go with Mr. Tersch, who we kind of reaffirmed the other day. And, you know, certainly the results have been very beneficial for the district. But really, as I sat here kind of listening to all 3, it's kind of feels a little like deja vu all over again for me, because I think it's really comes down to the choice of, do we want to continue with a small boutique firm who has successes, or try our hand at maybe a larger firm with a little more muscle? And not to say that any one is right or wrong, it's going to be the decision of this body, but I think that that's really probably the bigger question at issue as far as my mind of which approach would we rather go with, the small boutique kind of customized approach, or a large firm. We have one that has a lot of exposure both to public and private entities, or one with maybe a little more focus with the public entities such as ourselves. So I think that's kind of where we're at as a board. I know that as a board, we've been working very well together, and most of the time we don't really disagree, but I have a feeling tonight there might be a little disagreement. I would just, you know, caution my fellow members, you know, let's keep it civil, and just remember that, you know, this is a very important decision and we all have our opinions, and that's okay. And we can agree to disagree. Hopefully at the end of this process, whoever we choose to move forward with, that we can work together collectively, all 5 of us with staff, to get behind whoever that selection is, to do the best that we can with whatever approach we end up deciding to go with. So that would be my ask, is let's just kind of keep that in mind, keep it civil, And I'll open it up for discussion. And I'm sure we have a few opinions here. So who would like to lead off?
I mean, I would like to say I really appreciate having such a selection of qualified firms to choose from. I think all of them were exceedingly qualified. I also want to thank staff for the time and effort in preparing and interviewing and doing the background and research and everything that is in order for the board to be informed, in order for our conversation to be fact-based, and I do appreciate that. I think, you know, it's a choice this evening. I think, to be honest with you, I've served in both capitals in DC and in Sacramento. I can tell you that anyone on any of the teams can probably get our goals accomplished. I've reviewed their websites. I reviewed their backgrounds. I know what the members of their team look like, who has advanced degrees, who doesn't, how much time and which member of the legislature or a state agency they work for. And I believe that any of the organizations that were presented this evening could meet the test. However, you know, I believe it's important that, you know, we as an entity, we as an agency, that we reflect the values of this community. We're a hardworking community that is made of a lot of people who come from diverse settings, who come from not the best circumstances, but sometimes making something out of nothing. And I think, you know, for, you know, Tress S, Leo and Trejo, they've been exemplary. I think that Francisco Leo is a well-recognized attorney and a problem solver and a strategist, and has done well both as a lawyer for us and many other entities, and then in his endeavor as a lobbyist. I mean, that he can bring a breadth of direction and focus to what we're doing with our lobbying efforts. I think in tandem with Senator Polanco, it just makes sense. You know, one has the kind of technical expertise that we need. Another one has the experience and the knowledge. And I just like that combination. I think that the board should be behind and support the proposal of Tress S for this evening. That's what I believe. That's who I'm going to support. That's the direction I believe we should go. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Channing. Any other discussion?
Yeah. First, I want to mention that I appreciate all the companies that have placed their bids to come to us, but also I want to acknowledge both John Thill, our manager, and Socorro Pantalone for their teams to put an excellent manual and deep questions. I appreciate that a lot. It certainly helped me make a better informed decision, reading some of the history and the forms that they provided for us. But I'm also kind of more of a numbers guy. Hang out. and I've been very impressed with both the DEI questions from the companies that represent here, and I really like diversity. But the numbers kind of go through my head a lot, and I like to put my support for California Strategies and Advocacy. And that's who, well, since we're talking, that's who I wanted to put forth. And I don't know how we do about it. If we go for a vote, or do we still talk?
Well, we can talk, or someone can make a motion if they like, if others have any other general comments that they want to make. Kelvin?
Impressed with the work that went into this, and I know John was working really hard with his team, and it made it real simple. But yeah, I go with the heart of my thing is diversity and inclusion and equity, but also a personal touch where you feel the community, you work with this community, and you understand the complexities of this community and the issues of this community. So I think in the history of this place, of where we're going and where we're trying to go, and so I'm leaning more toward Tress.
Angie, you have any comments you want to add, or are you saving your voice?
Well, I mean, the only comment I have is I agree with you all that the choice is difficult. We have three very good firms that came to interview. They all have their strengths, which is making it very difficult because they either have involvement in the community or they represent the community or they have been working here in San Bernardino County. I do see, how some of the firms have, because they are power players and they're bigger, they're able to provide more for who they are working for versus what we've been, having here as the boutique. But, I still want to continue to see what, continue the discussion. But, again, this just makes it very difficult to make a decision when they're all really good.
Okay.
Well then, Mr. President, since you mentioned, I know we're divided right now, but I just kind of want to move forward. I'd like to put a motion that we accept California Strategy and Advocacy as our state lobbyist.
All right, so we have a first, a second. I'll second the motion. So we have a first, we have a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to call for a discussion on the motion.
Sure.
We could go through a number of procedural situations, but it won't be fun because it's getting late. But so I'm not gonna do that. That's the whole board.
Do you want to make a substitute?
No, we're not. We're not. No, we're not. We could do it all. We could do it all. Out of decorum and efficiency, I'll only make my comments that I respect the will of the board and the direction that the members of the board, if they decide to take a vote, that they will go. I just think that it's significant and important that we operate in a consensus and level of professionalism and decorum as we make decisions. You really can't lose this evening with any of the firms. And so any of the comments or statements have not been hopefully taken as a minimizing or in any way reducing the qualifications of any of the firms because they're very high and lauded. And so, I just wanted to make that statement. Sure. I'm firm on where I sit and my decision and mine is made up. And I don't want to delay the vote any further, but, to take in consideration Tress as the firm that we should consider and remain with.
Well, certainly sentiments that, this is not a reflection on any one of them. And certainly I agree. I think we are served by any of these choices. I mean, I think for myself, I just think it's time to have a little more muscle than to have a boutique. Again, nothing wrong with the boutique, and I've always appreciated Francisco and all the efforts which they've done on our behalf, but just like I appreciated the efforts of Mr. Lowry on the federal side, it was just time to maybe add a little muscle. And, you know, honestly, with, you know, especially where Dan and I sit on the financial committee, we see a lot of plans for the future, a lot of hard choices coming our way, and, you know, dollars make a big difference, because every dollar we can bring from Sacramento at this point really helps us out meeting our goals and objectives. So that's kind of why I would, again, lean towards California Strategies. I mean, they have a very big portfolio as far as how much they bring in for their clients, but not a reflection on any of the other firms. I would feel just as comfortable with Townsend for much the same reason, just maybe a slight difference there, and certainly the fact that I do know Jim Brulty and have known him for several years certainly is, you know, provides me a level of comfort. But I definitely want to echo your sentiment. All of these are fantastic firms, and you all should be very proud of you're not making it an easy decision, for sure. And as you can see, we're a bit divided up here, and we're trying to be civil about it. But
we are being civil.
Yeah, but that's because, you know, these are some very good firms in front of us, and again, they all three have a slightly different approach and size and perspective, and, you know, again, I think we could be served by any of them, but, you know, that's kind of why I'm leaning the way I am. So, any other discussion?
One other item for me.
Okay.
I want to acknowledge the decorum.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
And I appreciate everybody on that point. Thank you. All right. Well, no other further. We'll call the roll.
Thank you. Director Moore?
No.
Director Hawkins?
No.
Vice President Jenkins?
Yes.
President Young?
Yes.
And Director Garcia, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So that passes 3-2.
All right. Well, we have a decision.
Okay.
Again, I want to thank all the firms. Again, you all put together some fantastic proposals. We really do appreciate it. I wish in some ways we could pick you all, but unfortunately we do have to pick one. So thank you all for being here. We really do appreciate it. Congratulations to California Strategies, and I think all of us look forward to working with them. I know staff looks forward to working with them, because we do have a lot of big priorities as a district. So thank you to the board for the civility, and I do appreciate everyone for being here. So we'll go now to the remainder of the agenda. I think because it's pretty late, we can dispense with the board report portion. Okay. Mr. General Manager, do you have anything to report?
I think nothing urgent. I just wanted to mention one meeting we had with Supervisor Baca last week that was tremendous, and I'll have more on that next time.
Okay. Thank you. Legal? Smart man. Smart man.
Thank
you. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.
All right. Thank you. All right. All right.